And greetings, saints of the Most High. Welcome to another installment of the Messianic Torah Observer. Rod Thomas coming to you on a beautiful sunny fall preparation day here in the DFW. I want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to fellowship with me. And as always, beloved, it is my hope, trust, and prayer that this installment of TMTO finds you, your families, and your fellowships well and blessed. Well, as I am publishing this discussion, it is the 6th day of the 9th biblical month of Yah's sacred calendar year, which translates to the preparation day, Friday, December the 6th, 2024. Our Torah reading for this week is contained in Genesis chapter 8, verses 15 through Genesis chapter 9, verse 17. With the haftarah reading to be found in Isaiah chapter 42, verses 7 through 21, and the apostolic in 2 Timothy chapter 2, verses 8 through 19. And I've chosen to entitle this discussion, From Flood to Faith, the Enduring Promise of the Noahic Covenant. My thoughts and reflections on Torah Reading 7. Now, because the reading is rather long, and it would take away from our time discussing the content of the post, I won't be reading it in this discussion. I would encourage you, as always, to go ahead and read the Torah reading for the week, or for the Sabbath. And hopefully, if you can, if you will, or if you're willing, if you're interested, go ahead and read it prior to getting into the discussion here. Or however you are led to do, you could go ahead and listen to this post and then augment it by reading the reading after you've listened to this post. However you choose to do it, it's entirely up to you, but we won't be reading it. Now, I will say at the outset here, I want to go over a few of the key Messianic concepts to be gleaned from our reading this week, Torah Reading 7, again in Genesis chapter 8, verses 15 through chapter 9, verse 17. The first concept is a well-known concept, especially as it relates to our many, many posts and discussions here on TMTO, has to do with covenant. Covenant is an agreement. In the Hebrew, covenant is Brit. And you would probably be familiar with the term Brit Hadashah. And Brit Hadashah is essentially, in common modern English parlance, New Testament or New Agreement. New Testament, New Agreement. So this Torah reading here he talks about a covenant, and specifically the Noahic Covenant. The next concept is redemption, and it talks about Yehovah having a plan to redeem humanity through the Noahic Covenant, and we're going to talk about that rather extensively in this discussion. The next concept is renewal. We're talking about repopulation, or Yah having Noah and his family and the animal creation to repopulate the earth under the original command to be fruitful and multiply. Chapter 8, verse 17. And this, of course, is because our Torah reading today comes about just as Noah and family are exiting the ark after the great flood, where all living creatures have been destroyed, with the exception of the creatures that were in the ark along with Noah and his family. So we're talking in terms of renewal about new beginnings, or renewing the original Edenic or the original Adamic covenant. Tim Hague refers to this renewal question, this concept of renewal, as the beginning the rebuilding process. Yehovah is reestablishing his human and animal creation by moving them from a place of safety, which was the ark, back to the earthly realm, what that Yah had originally placed them. The other concept to be considered is the burnt offerings that were rendered unto Yah on a rebuilt altar by Noah as he exited the ark in thanksgiving, in homage to Yehovah for delivering him, his family, and creation through the great flood. And the story is told that upon smelling the fragrance of Noah's offering, Yehovah resolved in his heart a couple things. One, he would remove the curse he placed upon the earth, that he placed upon the ground when Adam and Eve were thrown out of the garden. And two, he would never again destroy all living creatures by an extermination event, such as the flood. And so life, creation, would continue to operate without interruption. And so Yehovah then comes to terms that humans were inherently evil from their birth, Genesis chapter 8, verses 21 and 22. And so it comes down to where Father determines that he will continue to allow humanity and all of the earthly natural creation to continue despite the inherent flaws and corruption that his human creation and his animal creation, all of creation, had incurred because of the great fall. The next concept is Yehovah blessed Noah and his sons. And in the renewal, the repopulation process, the earth under the original Adamic command is that blessing. Again, Yehovah grants or gives dominion back to Noah, back to humanity, and all the blessings therein. The other concept to consider is that Yah reasserts human dominion over the earthly creation. Chapter 9, verse 2. The next concept is that Yehovah removes the prohibition against humans consuming the animal population for food. Chapter 9, verse 3. Humans and animals are prohibited, however, from consuming the blood of every creature, specifically consuming the blood of humans. Chapter 9, verses 4 and 5. Why? Because Father says that life is in the blood. So humans especially aren't allowed to consume blood. Animals, because they're wild and because they're corrupted, will consume blood, and there's not much that we can do about that. But in terms of us humans, that is a huge prohibition that even Father stipulated in the Torah further along as we get into the Torah commandments in Exodus, Numbers, and Leviticus. In Deuteronomy, where Father reasserts the command to not consume blood. Yehovah bans murder or bloodshed with the caveat that there would be a measure for measure levied upon those who engaged in such activity. Now, clearly, the evil of the pre-flood world, let's just say, was at the forefront of Yah's heart and mind as he passed down this instruction to man, as documented in chapter 9, verse 6 of our reading. And Moshe described that regarding humanity, the imagination, the imagery of the human heart was evil from his birth, from his youth, chapter 8, verse 21. And this harkens back to our Torah Reading 4 discussion, where the concept of the Yetzer Ra, Yetzer Ra. If you've not listened to that, go ahead and check that out. I'll try to remember to put the link to that post in the show transcript for your convenience if you are so led. That is the evil inclination of humankind. Yetzer Ra, the human evil inclination of the human heart. And Yehovah acknowledges here in our reading that humanity is unfortunately a slave to his Yetzer Ra, his evil inclination. And later on, through the prophet Jeremiah, Yirmiyahu, Yehovah declared that the heart of humankind is deceitful above all things and is desperately wicked. Jeremiah 17:9. And of this reality, the psalmist wrote, "See, I was shaped in iniquity, and in sin did my my mother, conceive me." And that is Psalms 51, verse 6. I'd like you to recall that Yehovah schooled Cain on this problem just before Cain murdered his brother Abel. Father said to Cain, "Why are you angered and annoyed? And why is your face displaying hate? If you do well, shall you not be accepted? And if you do not do well, sin lies at your door." And here's the kicker. "And its desire is for you, but you should rule over it." In other words, Yah was instructing Cain that somehow he had to get control over his Yetzer Ra, his corrupt, evil inclination, in order for life to go well for him. And it is this instruction that we even today must heed. We must overcome this inherent Yetzer Ra that seeks to rule over our lives if we desire to have a true and substantive relationship with the holy and righteous King of the universe. All of humanity stands guilty of possessing and exercising their sinful evil intentions or inclinations before a holy Elohim, a holy God. Of this situation, this dire situation, the apostle wrote to his Roman Messianic readers that there is none righteous, no, not one. Romans chapter 3, verses 10 through 18. While the prophet wrote that we have all become like a filthy or unclean thing, and all our righteousness, that is, our perceived righteous deeds, are as filthy rags. And we all do fade as a leaf, and our iniquities, like the wind, have taken us away. Isaiah chapter 64, verse 6. Yah's intent for humankind was that it be fruitful and multiply, swarm through the earth, and hold sway over it. A clear resumption of the Edenic command that Yah declared unto, or I should say he actually instructed Adam and Eve in the garden, in Gan Eden. Genesis chapter 9, verse 7, which is a reference back to Genesis chapter 1, verse 28. The requirement and goal is to bring about a Yetzer Tov, a good inclination within humanity. Despite the scripture's silence as it relates to Adam having been created with a Yetzer Tov, a good inclination, the reality remains true. The reality of this dire situation is that humans remain enslaved to their Yetzer Ra, to which Yehovah cannot and will not work with. So the cutting of the Noahic Covenant that lays the groundwork for humanity finally getting the Yetzer Tov that will satisfy Yehovah and facilitate Yah's intended purpose and function for his human creation in the earth. A lot of people miss the point of the Noahic Covenant in that It was the plan of redemption. It was the plan of salvation that would heal and correct that corrupt Yetzer Ra and make it a Yetzer Tov, a good inclination, a righteous inclination. The other thing about the Noahic Covenant in terms of concepts in our reading is that this covenant is a unilateral covenant. It's a one-way covenant. Yah made the covenant with humanity, and he did not require anything really from Noah and his family or his human creation. It was a one-sided covenant agreement that Father put forth. And he put the token to this covenant, this unilateral covenant, in the form of the rainbow. You see, Yehovah does the heavy lifting because humankind is incapable of restoring the broken relationship that existed between, or that exists, I should say, between him and them, as well as bringing about its own redemption and salvation. This is Yah's grace at work. These unilateral covenants are Yah's grace at work. Now that we've discussed most of, if not all of the major concepts in our reading today, I want to talk about the establishing or the cutting of the covenant with creation that we see in this Noahic covenant. It should be clear to each one of us that the great flood did not correct the Yetzer Ra, the corrupted evil inclinations of humanity, because it would remain within every human born of a woman, that evil inclination. Knowledge or remembrance of the great flood could do nothing to sway the conscience of humankind. So humanity on its own cannot correct this dire, critical situation. And Yehovah, in fact, is the only one who could correct this corrupted spiritual situation in humanity. He would have to do the heavy lifting, if you will, on behalf of spiritually insolvent humankind through a great redemptive act. And this critical redemptive act would, of course, require not just a heart transplant, but a change of heart in humanity that would make them holy and acceptable to Yehovah, but also Yehovah providing a proper sacrifice to atone for the sins of humanity. Again, the post-flood change of environment and a seeming starting over from scratch with humankind and creation would not correct humanity's and all of creation's fallen state. It could not do it. And this is where the Noahic Covenant came into play. Prolific writer and Torah scholar, Messianic Torah scholar, I should say, Tim Hegg describes the Noahic Covenant as a, quote, unfolding of this redemption, which is the only hope for mankind, end quote. And this is from his studies in the Torah Genesis. Yehovah did not forget humankind, nor leave it to succumb to complete and utter destruction after the flood, which Yehovah could very well have done if he had chosen to do so. It would be within his purview to do, not just because he was sovereign, but because justice, righteous justice, dictated that we all deserve death. The human creation deserves death because of our sinful nature. The Creator hides within the elements of this crucial covenant, the Noahic Covenant, provision for the required redemption of humankind that would include securing the seed of the woman that would save the world. The covenant would beckon unto humanity to enter into a covenant relationship with its Creator. Its a relationship of trusting faith on the part of humanity that the creator of the universe will do that which he has promised he would do. And so we have here, in the giving of this covenant, the giving of the Noahic Covenant, Yehovah rehires humanity to be his designated image bearers in the earthly realm. Genesis chapter 9, verses 5 and 6 of our reading. Yah assigned unto humans an undeniable value as imagers, his imagers, that is supposed to be perpetuated throughout all the earth, where humans dwell and operate. And any actions by man or beast to diminish or eliminate that inherent value of humanity by murdering them would be punishable by death, according to Yehovah. Chapter 9, verses 4 through 6. And this would be where Father places the responsibility upon humanity to institute a judicial system that would deal with this evil inclination that often leads to murder. Some would say this is part of the Noahic or the Noahide laws. Now, I'm debating on doing a follow-up post to this Torah reading discussion addressing the issue of the Noahide laws. If Father so leads me to do, I'll do it, and I'll do it hopefully in short order. But this is part of what the rabbis say is part and parcel of the Noahide laws, the establishment, the mandate that Gentiles, that the anybody non-Jewish, the non-Jewish humanity of the world puts together, institutes, enacts, if you will, a judicial system that deals with this commandment of Yehovah to Noah and his family to deal with, or actually the progeny of Noah and his family, to deal with murder, to deal with injustices. The Noahic covenant, then, is a reaffirmation of the Adamic covenant, the covenant that Father cut with Adam. Not so much as an official cutting of the Adamic covenant, but a covenant none the same. Yah did not indicate that he was establishing or cutting a new covenant with Noah and his family and with creation, but rather Yah was clearly aiming at renewing the original covenant he'd cut with Adam. Chapter 6 of our verse 18 and chapter 6 verses 9, 8, 11, and 17. That is to take dominion over the earth, be fruitful and multiply. The Adamic covenant. What then is the difference between the Adamic and the Noahic covenants? Well, Yah cut the original Adamic covenant with pre-fallen Adam. And Adam was tasked with tending Gan Eden and not transgressing Yah's instructions, as well as being fruitful and multiply, as we just mentioned. But here in our reading, Yah basically renews that covenant, that Adamic covenant that he originally cut with Adam. And with now it is reiterated to Noah and his family and all creation, with the added stipulation that they not consume blood and that they safeguard against harming the image of Yah in man through murder, by ensuring justice be maintained on the earth. However, the blessings of the Noahic covenant are unconditional, despite the stipulations imposed upon humanity relating to blood and murder. So Father knows that the evil inclinations of humanity, the Yetzer Yah, is going to not be overcome by man, but the stipulation, the instructions were rendered unto Noah and all creation, none the same, delivered to Noah and his family, and which would be passed down to all humanity therein out. whether humanity complies with Yah's prohibitions against the consumption of blood and against murder, being righteous in dealing with these issues that come up of murder and shedding of blood and disobeying Yah's commandments, Yah is, and will honor his covenant promises as symbolized by the rainbow as the token to the covenant that he has cut with Noah and his family. Chapter 9, verse 15 of our reading. Now, Yehovah establishes his brit with his covenant with humanity and all earthly creation, and it is commonly referred to as a common grace covenant. Remember, I mentioned just earlier that the Noahic covenant, this unilateral covenants, all unilateral covenants are Yah's grace in action. And it simply means that Yehovah will, in this case, the Noahic covenant, was that Yehovah will never destroy all living creatures as he did in the great flood. Genesis chapter 9, verses 12 through 17. Before the flood began, Yehovah promised to cut a covenant with Noah. This was not new to Noah. For as Noah and his family and the creatures were entering the ark, Father, being impressed by Noah, being impressed by his righteous character, said to Noah, look, I like you. You're the kind of person I want to work with. I am going to establish my covenant with you. The condition for this covenant or that covenant to be enacted was for Noah to place himself, his family, and all earthbound creatures into the ark of safety, as stipulated in Genesis chapter 6, verses 18, and Genesis chapter 9, verses 9 and 10. Now, all of this is being said to say this, that the Noahic covenant is foundational to the full redemption of humanity, as well as for the salvation of humanity, although it may not directly appear as such by the wording of the covenant. But if we factor in the understanding that in Yehovah's cutting this covenant with Noah, he reaffirmed humanity's inherent value as his sole imager on the planet Earth that will persist until the end of time. As Yehovah's imager, he stands to inherit sonship, which will require a full redemption and adoption by Yehovah. Ezekiel chapter 34, verses 25 through 30. So clearly, Yehovah is making good on this presumptive promise through the person and ministries of his glorious son, Yehoshua HaMashiach. So Yah established the rainbow as the sign or token of the Noahic covenant, which has sadly been absconded with, or has, the LGBTQ community has taken this crucial ecclesiastical, righteous, holy token to represent themselves and their agenda. Somebody's going to have to answer to that. Just saying. But although Yehovah verbally promised not to destroy his earthly creation in its entirety ever again, the Creator felt there needed to be an outward token of his covenant to cement the assurance or further affirm the validity of the covenant. And this will become a common act by our covenant-cutting Creator. He loves to create covenants with his beloved ones. That is to enact a visual token to affirm the validity of the covenants he would cut with his human creation, with his chosen ones especially, even though he should not require such a thing because he's perfect. He is perfect truth. But we humans, our fail points is that we need to see something to believe Yah. And that's the sadness of our fallen state, our Yetzer Yah. is that we're always looking for a sign. What did they ask and what did they demand of Yeshua at his claims when he was exercising and he was doing his earthly ministry? It was, show us a sign. Show us a sign. We fallen humans always want a sign. We cannot just fully trust Yehovah that he will keep the promises that he makes. But we do know from history and from even personal experience that Father never, ever, ever has fallen short on the promises he has made with humanity. Although evil humanity loves to spin tall tales that he can't be trusted. So Father deals with us at our level. He gives us tokens and signs of the covenants that he makes with us. So that's the primary basic discussion of this Torah Reading 7. Now, the haftarah, our haftarah is contained within, let's see here, it's contained within Isaiah chapter 42. I lost my place. I apologize. I seem out of sorts. Even though my notes are here, I sometimes get caught up in some of the things I'm talking about. But our haftarah reading is contained in Isaiah chapter 42, verses 6 through 21. Now, I'm not going to read this entire haftarah passage, but I do want to point your attention to verse 6 of our haftarah reading, which is in Isaiah, again, chapter 42, and it reads, I have called you, and this is Abba Yah through the prophet Isaiah, saying to his chosen ones, Israel, that I have called you in righteousness, and I have taken hold of your hand. I have preserved you, and I have established you as a covenant to the people, as a promise to the people, as a light to the nations. Verse 7, and that is to open blind eyes, to lead those bound out of the dungeon, and those who are sitting in darkness, lead them out of the prison. Again, that's verse 6 of Isaiah chapter 42. So our haftarah reading here reminds us that Yehovah chose Yisrael to bring to fruition the fullest potential of the Noahic Covenant through Yah's unfolding, succeeding covenants, that it will include the Avrahamic and the Mosaic covenants. In future Torah studies, Yisrael would be handed the keys to the kingdom of Elohim, the Malkut Elohim. And Yisrael would show to humanity the blessings to be had by humanity if it would trust Yehovah, and if humanity would enter and walk in a covenant relationship with its creator. The nation, Yisrael, would also be the human conduit by which the Redeemer would emerge, Yehoshua HaMashiach, and would cause many to be delivered from the kingdom of darkness and to receive an adoption of sonship and to dwell forever with Yehovah. Now, as it relates to our apostolic reading, which is contained in 2 Timothy chapter 2, verses 8 through 19, as I mentioned with the haftarah, as well as the Torah, I won't read those portions because they're rather lengthy and I value your time. So I would just point out a couple of verses that I would hope that we could quickly discuss here. Verse 15, we're here in 2 Timothy chapter 2, but hone in on verse 15 and verse 19. Verse 15 in the Lexham English Standard Bible reading reads as thus: make every effort. Now let me give you a little background. I should have thought about that before I started yakking. So Paul is here counseling his young evangelical protocol, or protege, I should say protocol, his protege, to walk in covenant with the creator of the universe and to operate in his purpose and function. And he says in verse 15 to Timothy, I want you to make every effort to present yourself approved to Yehovah, a worker having no need to be ashamed, guiding the word of truth along a straight path. Now, in many of the English translations, verse 15 starts off with, study to show yourself approved. And I've heard many folks teach that Paul is telling Timothy, hey, study the scriptures so that you can be approved of Yah. But that's not what Paul was saying. The English rendering of study means to do your best. And Paul is saying to Timothy, do your best to present yourself approved of Elohim, a worker having no need to be ashamed, guiding the word of truth along a straight path. In other words, if you do what you're supposed to do, you're diligent to walk in righteousness and to walk in covenant with Elohim, you have nothing to be ashamed of. You have nothing to be concerned with because you're doing what your purpose and function is. You're operating in purpose and function, and that's a beautiful thing. And then in verse 19, the apostle writes, however, the solid foundation of God stands firm, having this seal. The Lord knows those who are his, and everyone who names the name of Yehovah must abstain from unrighteousness. Pretty explanatory. We who walk in righteousness, and we walk in our purpose and our function and in covenant with Yehovah, Father knows us. Shaul here is encouraging his young evangelist protege to put every effort to walk in covenant with Yehovah through the person and ministries of Yeshua Messiah. For the one who embarks on fulfilling their heavenly ordained purpose and function by walking in covenant, walking in righteousness, are named and numbered among those who belong to Yehovah, with all the blessings and benefits and privileges and so forth associated with that calling. And so, as Yah's elect, his chosen ones, in closing here, we, like Timothy, who are at the encouragement of the apostle, are called to walk in righteousness without exception and without deviation. And our trusting faith-based covenant relationship with Yehovah through the person and ministries of Yeshua HaMashiach is our North Star. It is our prime directive. It is the one thing that we are called to that has a direct connection to the Noahic and all the succeeding covenants that Yah has cut with humanity through Israel. And so it is crucial that we as Yah's elect and chosen ones become fully aware of the covenants that Yah has cut with us and that we are embedded in his holy and eternal word. Those covenants are embedded in his holy and eternal words of truth. And failure to do so may result in our losing sight of our purpose and function. In Yeshua Messiah, we are purposed to function as imagers of Yehovah Most High in all the earth, who was the most accurate and perfect imager of Yah ever in human history, none other than Yeshua Messiah. And we have been called to be like him. You know, we have a person that we can look to and say, yeah, he images Yehovah. That's what imaging of Yehovah looks like, is Yeshua Messiah. So I need to be like him. And Father is saying, yes, that person, that who is my son, my begotten one, my beloved one, you be like him. You walk like him. You act like him. You talk like him. You think like him. You be like him. That is what we've been called to do. And if we do that, if we study diligently the life and ministry and teachings of Yeshua, our Messiah, our Mashiach, we will be imagers of Yehovah Most High in all the earth, which is the North Star, the mandate of our purpose, our function as, let's just say, as Yah's chosen elect ones. And so, as I've mentioned previously in this posting, Yah has and continues to do the spiritual heavy lifting for each of us by redeeming and saving us. And it falls to us, beloved, to make ourselves accessible to Yah, to fulfill his purpose for us as we look ahead and above for his coming eternal kingdom. Shabbat Shalom. Shavua Tov. You take care until next time. Rod checking out.